engine's coming! The engine's coming! The engine's coming! Hi, I'm Joe, and welcome to Motor City Boat Works. Let's get to work. Welcome back to the channel. Today, what I thought we would do in the shop is talk real briefly about the new engine that's arrived for the Albin 27 pocket trawler. This is the new Beta Marine 43 horsepower diesel engine. It arrived a couple days ago. It was delivered by box truck to the shop here. You saw me unloading it. What I thought we would do is we'll take a moment. Let's talk about all the things that are involved here, all the different options, and what exactly I ordered and why did I order those options. We'll go through each thing and I'll tell you what I think.
If you're new to the channel and you're just now checking us out, I'm building this pilot house yacht in my retirement inside my workshop. I'm not a professional, I'm a regular guy. I like to call myself a competent amateur. This boat is a 1986 Albin 27 family cruiser. It's a trailerable boat. I'm going to use this boat, travel around the United States on what's called the Great Loop, possibly take this to the Caribbean and maybe up into the Pacific Northwest. My channel is all about showing what it takes to build something like this.
I say in every episode, I have no sponsors. I don't get compensated in any way for talking about the people, products, or the places that I show in my YouTube videos. I like to talk about products that I think are pretty clever and I really like. They're things that I'm using. You can choose whatever you like, but if you're looking for some detailed information that might have something to do with how you choose something, well, that's why I put this information out there. I'm gonna run you through, what I know about the engine. If I misspeak or say something wrong, don't be a tool and go in the comments and start pointing out all the mistakes that I make. I'm not a diesel mechanic. I'm just a competent amateur who's and this will be my first big engine, Repower install. So, if I say something wrong, I do these videos, one or two takes, and we just kind of go from there. My technical team and producers, well, they're me, and I'm busy doing other things. So what you need to know is this engine is 43 horsepower. I talked about it in another episode. Why did I choose that size engine for this boat? You want to check that out. It kind of goes through some of the details. 43 horsepower, it's 4-cylinder, diesel engine. Couple things, if you take a look at it right away, you're going to notice that I've got two alternators, right? There's one here and one here. I've set out the engine mounts right here on the crate. Now, this is how it arrived. We pulled the cardboard box off of the top of it. And this particular engine, I had to order custom motor mounts so that it could be mounted properly in the engine room along the engine beds there on the stringers. And these are the custom mounts, these brackets right here that were made specifically for this engine to fit my boat. Now, not every Albin 27 that gets a repower may have to have these. Not every boat may have to have custom engine mounts. And in fact, you may be able to fabricate your own custom mounts. But in this case, I decided to have the factory go ahead and do that. It costs, I don't know, several $100s, maybe $700 to have them do the mounts. One of the most important things is that I needed a way to mount the extra large alternator that's going to charge the large lithium battery bank, the house battery bank. And this is part of the motor mount that we have right here. You can see this. So alternators, let's talk about what we have. I think the standard Beta Marine engine this size comes with a 75 amp alternator. This particular one is 120, so it's one size up. I originally wanted to have one alternator on the engine. I thought it would be easier. We'll just have a monster alternator charging everything. But it turns out that, it works out better to have two alternators One very, very large one dedicated to charging the lithium batteries running off of its own regulator, and another alternator that is strictly responsible for the engine battery. And it came with the engine anyway, so why not have two alternators? Then we were able to take advantage of having the custom mount made where this alternator goes. You can see here, it's kind of collapsed in right now for shipping, but ultimately this belt's gonna go like that, and this alternator is gonna get pulled out. It'll come out and be over this. This is where the engine beds would be in the boat, right? Along these two wooden beams right here. So the extra large alternator will hang out past that. This particular alternator is from a company called Arco. This is a 275 amp alternator. It's, you know, a specifically designed extra large, extra electricity producing alternator just for this type of marine application. And it will be charging my house battery bank, lithium battery bank, you know, somewhere around 800, 900 amp hours, that battery bank. You need a very big alternator to do that. The Arcos goes with this right here, which is the regulator. This kind of external electrical unit device here that gets hooked up to this and controls, you know, how it works and what exactly it does. Kind of looks like a router, actually. Look at this thing. So this is the regulator that will get mounted on a bulkhead, and it gets connected to this black alternator here, kind of controls the flow. One of the reasons to have two alternators is, you know, the house battery bank is going to be lithium, all lithium, but the engine battery itself is going to be a lead acid battery or AGM, kind of a traditional battery. It has to have a very high number of cold cranking amps to be able to turn this engine over, and you don't necessarily want to be doing that from the house battery system. And when you have two different chemistries of batteries, you need to have, well, two different regulators controlling the charging of those battery banks. And in this case, it ends up being easier to have two different alternators, you know, charging the battery banks separately.
Motor City Boat Works is my retirement boat building and boat restoration studio. I have a variety of classic boats that I'm restoring inside my boat shop. It's no nonsense, it's just boat restoration. Join me Fridays, 5 p.m. for episodes from the Boat Works.
Since I came out with my episode talking about the diesel repowering, and a lot of people have kind of messaged me and they've been talking on the forums about choosing a different brand motor to put inside their boat. You know, we talked about the two brands that were available, Yanmar and Beta Marine in the United States. Some people prefer the Yanmar because it's a dedicated marine engine. It's designed that way from the factory, as opposed to the Beta Marine or some of the other brands. They are Japanese Kubota kind of industrial engines that are then marinized by, you know, adding all the bits and bobs that are specific for a marine application. And that's true. The Yanmar engines are designed from the factory as marine engines, all the guts and this and that. But the biggest issue today with buying a Yanmar to do your repower is that an engine in about the 40 horsepower range and higher, they are all what's called common rail systems. Now, this is basically an engine that has its fuel delivery and everything done electronically, like you would have in your car or something like that. And what that means for the do-it-yourselfer is that, well, you can't do it yourself. You can't do anything to the engine yourself. You can't repair anything, replace any parts, do much of anything, because you need some very specific computer type analysis type equipment to be able to figure out what's wrong with the engine. And then you're essentially replacing electronic parts, motherboards and this and that to get it running. With the Beta Marine engine or any of these Kubota engines that are marinized, Nanny, Soleil does it to Mitsubishi engines. These engines are all what's referred to as mechanical. The fuel injection is mechanical via a mechanical pump. And it is possible for a competent amateur who knows something about diesel engines to work on their own engine. And it actually makes the install easier as a do-it-yourselfer to be able to do all this. If you're cruising long term and you have a common rail Yanmar engine, if that thing breaks or something goes wrong with it, as a layman, you will not be able to fix it. And you will also be stuck trying to find a certified Yanmar technician to work on the engine. And only they can work on the engine, right? You can't do it. This gives a lot more options, I think, to the do-it-yourselfer. That's why I chose this particular engine. Well, I chose it because, frankly, it's do-it-yourself friendly. I talked about this in the other episode. The ability to call up Beta Marine and kind of talk through the steps and all the things that you have to know, really makes a big difference. You're not talking to a dealer necessarily. You're not talking to a third-party technician, service center. You're talking to Beta Marine in the United States, and they are giving you, firsthand information on what it is, you should be doing and what you should be thinking about.
Look, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great engines out there. Choosing a marine engine for your boat is about choosing the features and the capabilities that you want. It's not just about choosing a $20,000 engine and they're all the same. I'll give you some examples. These are some small details, but I think they really make a difference. Beta Marine uses silicone hot water hoses rather than the normal EPDM rubber hoses. Beta Marine also uses stainless steel pipe for the seawater section. This is better than EPDM. And Beta Marine uses a minimum of hoses where possible. Beta Marine offers custom engine mounts for your application. They use a real air filter, which is better for engine protection and noise suppression. Beta Marine offers full instrumentation for your control panel rather than just a basic option, which would only be a tachometer. The Beta Marine uses a 6-peak serpentine belt instead of the old style V belts. This offers better service life, less belt dust, more holding power with less slippage. 6-peak belts don't loosen up like the old V belts did. It has a larger primary fuel filter with the manual fuel priming pump. This engine uses a 3/16 stainless steel exhaust elbow rather than a cast iron. The oil pump out is placed at the lowest part of the pan. On a lot of these, the oil pump is just at the front of the engine, which may be the highest part. The Beta has a heavy-duty inertia ring, which helps protect the engine from the high compression cycles. It smooths out the engine idle and helps reduce vibration. Beta Marine offers a variety of alternator configurations, just like in my case, where I want to be able to run a high-capacity alternator in order to charge my large house bank batteries. They offer single, dual. The alternators can be mounted in different locations on the engine depending on your requirements. Probably the most important thing is Beta Marine's engine warranty is not affected by you doing the install or you doing the work on your own engine. You hear people refer to this as the do-it-yourself warranty.
It's made a big difference, and it helped me kind of go through the engine, step by step, choosing all of the different accessories and upgrades and things that I might need for my particular boat build. This engine has a 6-inch exhaust riser. That's what this is right here. This particular engine is equipped with a heat exchanger so that you can connect your hot water heater, say, to the engine cooling system and use some heat transfer from the engine cooling system to heat your hot water tank, right? And these are the fittings. If you were to order one of these, you want to make sure that you ask for them to add the fittings right here with the valves to be able to, turn this off and separate that part of the system if you ever need to be able to do that. This right here is the TM345 hydraulic transmission.
The oil pump for the transmission is actually attached to the gearbox. And then up top, this is the oil cooler for the transmission fluid. The hydraulics actuate the clutch cone, and that's what allows you to change gears.
One of the reasons that I wanted to have a hydraulic transmission, aside from the fact that this is what fits inside, the hull of the boat, when we did our trip to the Netherlands and we were traveling around on that 9-meter Dutch steel trawler, that boat had a 40 horsepower Nanny diesel engine. Nanny is a company in Europe that marinizes Kubota engines also. It's very common. It's a French company. That particular boat also had a hydraulic transmission. And what it meant was at low speed, you were able to move between forward and reverse without having to adjust the throttle. You could set the throttle very, very low so that the engine was just turning over, making revolution. You could have it in forward, but if you wanted to, immediately reverse, you could just simply bring the transmission back, put it in reverse. What this meant was that you had a lot of control over being able to, put the boat in a particular position, especially on the narrow waterways that we were operating on in the Netherlands. It was a real luxury and, something that you kind of take for granted. It may be something you never considered if you've had an engine where you have to take the throttle, bring it all the way to zero, put the transmission in neutral, then put the transmission in reverse. There's a whole process getting used to that versus being able to go immediately from forward to reverse and not have to worry about your gearbox.
The primary fuel filter for the Beta 43 engine is up top here, and this black button is the priming button for the fuel system. The oil filter is right down here. It's actually at the front of the engine with easy access.
This is the air filter, and this right here is, something that you'll see on all of the Beta Marine engines. It's a manual oil pump for changing the oil, right? This is plumbed into the sump down here, and you can, put a container right here and pump out all the oil. This is a difference between a Yanmar Marine engine and, say, a Beta Marine engine. The Yanmar engine comes with a external portable plastic hand pump that you kind of, go to town on trying to change your oil. This is brass. It's all attached here and mounted permanently, and it's part of the Beta Marine kind of marinization design. If you've been watching my channel, you may remember I did a whole episode about, do we go with the normal size oil sump or go with the shallow option? Chose the shallow option because that's what's going to fit inside the boat. And you can see now, this is what that looks like right down here. Right here, you can see the fittings on it. So we showed that. When the engine originally arrived, I got to be honest, it was a little anticlimactic. And it was getting unloaded, and my daughter was filming. She asked me, what's wrong? You don't look happy. And I had some anxiety because just my initial observation of the engine, it looks really big to be fitting inside the engine bed area there, where I was doing the measurements with the sump and stuff like that. I was really concerned that it wouldn't fit. And when we first unboxed it, I was skeptical that it would fit inside there. I'm still a little bit skeptical, but I have more confidence now because I unpacked one of the boxes and brought out one of the engine mounts here. You can see this. So this is rubber inside here, and it comes like this. I guess it's designed like that. And this engine mount here, these custom mounts will go between these two, right? And then you can adjust it up or down. And one of my concerns when I first saw the engine was just looking at it, it looks like it's set kind of low. It looks like, step back here. It looks like it's set kind of low, like you need a lot of space. If you were to look at this, check this out. I mean, right, 7 inches, 8 inches down there. And I was really concerned because we don't have 8 inches, it's something less, somewhere around 7 or something like that. And, or whatever. And well, the reason is because when you take it off of this wooden crate, and it's gonna go on here. So this is gonna go in between here, and in effect, raise the whole engine up, which will create more clearance down here. So I'm not as concerned as I was before. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna end up using the gantry, and we'll ultimately unbolt it from the crate. And when it comes time to install it, we're gonna raise it up using the gantry. We're gonna take the pilot house off the boat. There is a repair that I want to do to the flange of the pilot house where it mounts to the deck. I want to reinforce that. We'll take the pilot house off, which is why I haven't put the windows in. We'll take the hardtop off because we're probably going to need to get access to the center of the cockpit. Now, some people have created gantries and stuff inside the cockpit of the boat, and they raise and lower the engine, but you still got to get the engine up there inside the boat. This will be easier. We'll use the gantry, we'll bring it straight across. We'll probably hook up here to these 2 lifting points. Where are they? I was looking at them the other day. Here's one right here, and there's another one probably right here. We'll raise it up right here, like that, okay? Let's take a look at what's in these boxes here. So we've got, come here, we've got a bunch of spares. Take a look here. We've got a bunch of spares. This is a fuel filter. Okay. This is what's basically right here. Right there. All right. These are spares. They'll go get put away and saved for another day. It's always good to have them. There's an impeller kit. This is the impeller. All right.
Yeah.
All right, let me show you where this goes. The impeller goes right here. This is where the impeller goes, right in here. This comes off, it goes right inside there. This is an extra anode. All right, so spare parts. All right, take a look here. All right, we got an instruction manual, and some technical stuff that has to do with the TM345 transmission, all this kind of stuff. But look at that. Kind of takes you through every step and everything that you need to know to do the install. I'm impressed, man. Oh, and all the schematics too. Check that out. All right. Very cool. Leave that there. Look at this here. What we got here? So this is going to be I don't know if you can see this. Ooh, look at that. Sexy. What is that? This is what's called a split coupler. And this is what gets attached to the shaft and then to the transmission. Let's go check it out. Come over here. So this is going to go on the shaft, right? 1 1/4 diameter stainless steel shaft. And then this is going to, basically bolt up here. But in between here is what's called a flex shaft coupler. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. It's in the box there. But that's basically, you have to make decisions about all this stuff, and they'll advise you on, what they recommend and this and that, and they size and fit everything, according to your engine and the shaft on your boat. This is the flex shaft coupler here. And, basically this is made of some sort of plastic. And it helps the vibrations, if there's any vibrations or misalignment from the shaft to the engine. All right. What's inside here? Let's see. What do we got? What is it? It's like Christmas. All right, here we go. This is for the Arcos alternator. We got some pieces for the. These are shunts that are part of the electrical system. Check this out. Let's see. Knows what that is. Oh, snap daddy. Look at that. This is what's called the Deluxe C model panel. When you choose the engine, you can choose there's a variety of panels that you can choose. What kind of instruments you want, whether you want it to have a key or not. Obviously, these are the keys. One of the things I want to measure here is four inches. Okay. So the measurements are all matching what, we pulled off of the spec sheets and stuff like that. So all, my episode on mocking up the helm and everything, all that stuff should fit. Everything looks, all of this seems to match dimensionally to, what I pulled off the spec sheets and stuff. So I have no concerns about that. My only concern, initially was the engine looked like it was sitting a little low below the level spot for the engine mounts. And, I hope everything fits. I hope I didn't make a mistake in my measurements somewhere. I did it so many times. And I had Beta Marine checking so many times what I was doing. It all makes sense on paper, but like all of the projects that we've done so far on the boat, once you take something and try and put it up in the boat, there may be something may reveal itself that you never thought of. And then you go into problem solving mode, trying to figure out how to make something fit or work in the space and the circumstances that you're provided. That's just the nature of amateur boat building. If you're a professional, you probably learned all these lessons already. Maybe you have an engineering design crew doing stuff. We don't have that, right?
I just want to remind you, I know this is a lot of information, and whatever you do, don't take my word for it when you're speccing out your engine and trying to figure out what you need. This is where you need to contact a professional, somebody at a company who can tell you exactly what you need, exactly what the options are that are going to give you the capabilities, the redundancy, the reliability that you're going to want in your marine engine. Whatever you do, don't take my word for it. I'm sure we all want to know, what does this thing cost? A new engine like this costs about $20,000. But if you want specifics, if you're serious about boat building like I am, and you really want to get into the details, I got something special just for you. I make all that information available to my workers. It's all on my Patreon. I'm totally transparent about all the back end of this build. I think it's important to share that information so that you maybe think about doing something like this yourself. Be sure to check it out.
You're probably asking yourself, when is this thing going inside that thing? When are we going to actually be hoisting the engine up and putting it inside the boat? I got to be honest with you, it's probably going to be several months down the road. There's a number of other things that have to happen inside the boat. The wiring has to get started so we have an idea where the wiring runs are going to go and whether or not any holes, extra cutouts need to be made, in the bulkheads or the holes and stuff like that. I want to do all that before the engine actually goes in there because it just makes it easier kind of moving around inside the spaces. Most definitely, the two tanks, the freshwater tank and the waste tank, need to get put into the boat because they are a very tight fit up underneath the deck in the engine compartment, one on each side, and we can't put them in if the engine's already in place. So the tanks have to, at a minimum, they may not have to be plumbed, but they definitely have to be squeezed inside their spots before we put this thing inside there. And then it'll be a whole process of removing the pilot house, removing the hard top, and kind of then getting this thing up inside there. So for the moment, we will crate this thing back up, cover it back up, and kind of set it aside. That's why it's on rollers here. We went through a bit of effort to get this thing on rollers so that I can run it around. One of the rules in the boat shop is everything has to be on wheels. We don't want anything not on wheels because we want to be able to move it at a moment's notice to make room for whatever it is I have to do. I think what we might do also sometime later on this summer is we'll hook this thing up and maybe do a bench test so that everybody can hear what it sounds like. I know I'm excited. I just want to know what's this gonna be like. It's exciting times. There's no turning back. We're only going forward. I hope you stick with me. We'll see you next time. Stay motivated.